Hey, geometry students, Mrs. Spence here. I wanted to go over a few more examples on truth tables so that you can become more confident setting up your truth tables and then analyzing their truth value. So, looking at example number 5 in your notes section, we're going to start by setting up our tables with their headings. So, always look at which values or which letters do we have. So, we have P and we have Q. And then the next columns will be reserved for the not or the negation. So not P and not Q for this one. And then the final column is for the statement that you want to analyze altogether. So not P or not Q. All right, so again, colors really help me. So we're going to do different colors here. So the first one is just the traditional setup where it's always true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. All right, so this is just the basic setup that makes sure that you get all combinations of true and false possibilities here, just like flipping a coin. If you flip 2 coins, you'd have head, 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 tails, tails, head, and tails, tails, okay? But this is true and false. These are all the possible solutions that you can have here or combinations that you can have. All right, so now we need to negate the different things. So we're going to negate P. All right, so if P started as true, the opposite would be false. It starts as false in this one and goes to true. False, true. All right, and then we're going to negate Q. So if it started as true, the negation would be false. False would turn to true. True would turn to false. False would turn to true. Now it's time to analyze the combination. So they want us to analyze not P, that's this column, or not Q, this column. So again, these 2 columns were necessary just to help us to get to the negation. They're not needed anymore. We're only going to analyze these 2 because that is the statement that they're asking us to analyze. All right, and then that keyword of or means that only one of them needs to be true for the truth value of the compound statement to be true. So false, false, only one of them needs to be true in order for the compound statement to be true. Neither one of those are true. So our answer is going to be false on that one. One of them is true for the next one. So that's going to have a true truth value. One of them is here as well. And one of them, both of them are there. So that one's a great bonus there to have both of them true. But if one of them is true for an or statement, then the whole compound statement's value is true. All right, so let's set up another one here with number 6. We have P, Q, and R. So P, Q, and R. And then look at any of them that are a negation of them. All right, so we don't have any negations, but we have a grouping. So this is where parentheses get involved. And remember, we do groupings first. So the first thing we're going to want to do is analyze what it would be if we had Q and R. All right, so we're going to start with all possible combinations here. And this is where, okay, if we have 3 different ones, we're going to have 3 possible truths that start. Actually, 4 possible truths that start. And then 4 falses. Okay? And then there's a repeated pattern that we do all the time over and over again, and that kind of helps us with our setup. And if you memorize it, it definitely helps you, but not required. All right, so for this one, we do 4 truths, 4 falses, and then for the next line, we're going to do true, true, false, false, true, true, false, false. And then for the last one, we're going to alternate true, false, okay? And I'm going to show you this pattern because it's very helpful if you do memorize it to make sure that you get all possible combinations without having to think too hard. All right, so the pattern is that you're going to do 4 truths and 4 falses first. And then you're going to do 2, so 4, then 2. And then every other. See that? Okay, so 4 truths, then 2 truths, then 1 truth. 4, 2, 1, and then repeat that until you run out of blanks. All right, so now time to analyze. We are only looking at, right now, Q and R. And later we'll work with the P. So again, we're starting with the parentheses because we always start with our groupings first. And so if we're looking at the word and, we need both of them to be true in order for it to be true. So just right here, right now, is that true? Yes. Looking at just this section here now, we have 1 false, so it has to both be true, so that would be false. And then what you'll probably want to do is just go through and say, okay, where are my 2 truths? And I'm going to fill those in. And then the rest of them are going to be false. Okay, and now it's time to finish it. So now we're going to be comparing just the P's here. With this whole statement as well. All right, so we're going to come over here and now we're going to do our full statement or, so just the P column or our combined. All right. So we have or, meaning only one of them needs to be true in order for the statement to be true. So here's a true and a true. Now I'm going to highlight these to help me see it. So we're comparing this column now to this column. And if you need to do this with your colors, then go for it. It definitely is helpful. All right, so then true, true. This is definitely true. True, there is a true combined. And look, all of these are true. So up to here, we're going to have all true because it says or, and only one of them needs to be true in order for it to be true. And now this is where we're going to have to really start looking. Is one of them true? Yes. How about one here? No. So that one's false. One of them here? Nope. False again. And one of them here? Nope. False again. All right. So those are our truth values. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 truths and 3 falses in that one. Now, try number 7. I'm going to get you set up here. We have Q involved, we have P involved, and we have R involved. And then we have a not Q. We have a combo here. We're going to start with our parentheses, P and R. And then we have our full statement. Now, I want you to pause the video and try to do this on your own. And then come back and check your answer. All right, so for this first grouping here of all of these, this is our standard format. And we're just going to do our true, 2, 3, 4, and our false, 2, 3, 4. And then 2 trues, 2 falses. 2 trues, 2 falses. And then the last alternate, true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. Again, not required, but it's a lot less thinking if you just have the pattern memorized. Now we're going to negate the Q. So if it started as true, it's now false, 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 true, 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 true. Now we're going to do this and statement. So we're looking at P and R for this first one. Let's go through, put those in. P and means they both have to be true. So that one's true. This one's true. And that's it. The rest will be false. Okay. So now that's this statement here. And we're going to be dealing with the not Q. So that's going to be this column, comparing it with this column that we just created. All right. So have to both be true because of the and. So where do we see both of those true? Oh, right here. And that's it. The rest will be false. Okay. So there's only one truth statement in that example. Let's look at the next one, which is the last one. All right. You can do this. Let's set it up. We have P, we have Q, and we have R involved. We also have a not P and a not R. And then we're going to start with our parentheses, not P or Q. And then we have our final, not P or Q and not R. Set it up. True, 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 true. I'm going to use lowercase f's because my f's are looking a lot like my t's when I write fast. All right, and then two trues, two falses, two trues, two falses, true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. And now time to negate. So we're going to negate the P first. Started true, now it's false. False, false, false. Started false, now it's true, 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 true. Not R. So here's my R's. Started true, now it's false. False, true, true, false, false, true, true, false, false, true, true, false, false, true. Okay, now we're going to look at not P, so this column, and regular Q, this column. Okay. All right, it's an or statement, so only one of them needs to be true. We have a true in this one, so that would be true. We have a true, no true. No true. We have true, 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 true. Okay, so now we're going to take this column and we're going to compare it with not R. And that will be our final statement here. So it's an and statement between our two columns. So both need to be true. There's a false. Both are true. Both are false. Only one true, so now it's false. And again, if it helps you to say, where are all my double truths, and put those in and then fill in the rest of them, that is totally fine as well. And that is how you do some complicated truth tables.